The Galactic Council had existed for 73,000 cycles, a monument to diplomacy and restraint. Within its crystalline halls, 417 species had learned to coexist, their conflicts resolved through endless negotiations and carefully worded treaties. Violence was forbidden. Aggression was met with economic sanctions. War was a concept relegated to primitive histories. And then there were the humans. Jenny Martinez stood before the Council's central platform, her uniform bearing the insignia of Earth's diplomatic corps. Her dark eyes swept across the amphitheater where thousands of alien delegates observed her with curiosity, amusement, or thinly veiled contempt. Beside her, Edward Chen adjusted his translator implant, his jaw tight with suppressed anger. They had been summoning humans to this chamber for 3 years now. 3 years of complaints, accusations, and condescending lectures about humanity's emotional volatility and primitive tendencies. "Representative Martinez," began Councillor Vexthor, his 6 arms gesturing with practiced elegance, "Earth's colony on Kepler 442b has once again violated Protocol 7329. Your mining operations have disturbed a Selnari meditation sphere. This is the 47th such incident." Jenny's fingers tightened around her datapad. The meditation sphere was an abandoned structure that predated the Zelnari's arrival by centuries. But she said nothing. Not yet. "Furthermore," continued another counselor, a gelatinous being whose name humans couldn't pronounce, "your species continues to maintain a military fleet exceeding the recommended defensive threshold. We find this disturbing." Edward leaned closer to Jenny. "Recommended threshold," he whispered bitterly. "That would leave us with enough ships to defend maybe 2 systems." Jenny knew the game. She'd played it for 3 years. Apologize, promise investigations, accept restrictions. Watch as humanity's expansion was strangled by 1,000 bureaucratic cuts, while species like the Kryn Dominion operated with impunity because they'd been council members for millennia. But today was different. Today, news had reached Earth about the Meridian colony. "Counselors," Jenny said, her voice steady, "before we address your concerns, I must inform this assembly of an incident that occurred 48 hours ago." Vexthor's translator clicked with what might have been irritation. "Representative Martinez, we have not recognized you for..." "The human colony of New Meridian, population 200,000, has been destroyed." Silence fell across the chamber like a physical weight. "Destroyed is perhaps incorrect terminology," Jenny continued, her voice growing harder. "Exterminated would be more accurate. Every man, woman, and child. Security footage shows Kryn warships entering the system, deploying biological weapons, and departing. Total elapsed time, 14 minutes. The chamber erupted in chittering, buzzing, and various forms of alien discourse. Vexthor raised his primary arms for silence. "This is a serious accusation, Representative Martinez. The Kryn are valued council members. Surely there has been a misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding," Edward interrupted, his voice cutting through the noise. He activated the holographic projector, and the chamber was filled with images that made even the most alien observers recoil. Cities reduced to ash, fields of bodies, children who would never grow old. "We have brought this evidence to the council," Jenny said, "as per protocol. We are filing formal charges against the Kryn Dominion for genocide. We demand immediate sanctions and the arrest of their military leadership." Councillor Vexthor exchanged glances with his colleagues. The gesture that followed was one Jenny had learned to recognize: dismissal. "Representative Martinez, while this incident is regrettable, we must consider the broader context. The Kryn have indicated that New Meridian was established in violation of the territorial demarcation agreement of 200,000 people," Jenny said quietly. "The territorial demarcation agreement which Earth signed upon joining this council. while the Kryn's response was perhaps disproportionate. 200,000 people, Jenny repeated, louder now. We must not allow emotion to dictate policy. The council will establish a committee to investigate. A committee. Jenny's laugh was harsh, devoid of humor. You'll form a committee. You'll investigate. You'll write reports. And in 5 years, maybe 10, you'll issue a strongly worded resolution condemning the Kryn's excessive response, while my species buries 200,000 corpses. Representative Martinez, your tone is... My tone? Jenny stepped forward, and something in her movement made several delegates lean back. For 3 years, we've played by your rules. We've accepted your protocols. We've limited our fleets, restricted our colonies, apologized for existing too loudly in a galaxy that was already divided up before we arrived. And for what? So you could watch our children burn and call it a regrettable incident? Edward placed a hand on her shoulder, but his eyes held the same fire. Counselors, humanity came to this council in good faith. We believed in the promise of civilization over barbarism. But we're beginning to understand something about this institution. And what is that, Representative Chen? Vexthor asked coldly. That you've forgotten what teeth feel like. The translator implants struggled with the idiom, creating a moment of confused silence. Jenny tapped her datapad, and new images filled the chamber. These are the coordinates of every human colony, outpost, and vessel in council space. As of this moment, they are being evacuated to systems beyond your jurisdiction. You cannot simply... We can, and we are. Furthermore, Earth is formally withdrawing from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. The chamber exploded in protest. Vexthor's voice rose above the chaos. You cannot survive without council protection, without our trade networks, without what? Edward's voice was ice. Your protection. The Kryn attacked us in council space, under your supposed protection. Your trade networks? 80% of our GDP comes from internal human systems. Your wisdom? You've taught us nothing except that power without will is worthless. Jenny's next words were delivered with surgical precision. The Council is hereby informed that Earth is implementing defensive protocols. Any vessel entering human-controlled space without prior authorization will be considered hostile. Any attack on human interests will be met with immediate and overwhelming retaliation. We will no longer seek Council approval for self-defense. This is tantamount to a declaration of war, shrieked a delegate from the back. No, Jenny said quietly. This is a declaration of independence. You wanted us to be civilized. We tried. You wanted us to be patient. We were. You wanted us to forgive. We did. But you mistook our patience for weakness, our civilization for timidity, our tolerance for cowardice. She locked eyes with Vexthor. Humanity has spent 3 years learning how this galaxy works. We've been students. Now class is over. Edward activated one final hologram. It showed the mobilization of Earth's fleets, not the token defensive force the Council permitted, but the true extent of human military power hidden in asteroid bases and dark space installations. 47 star systems, Edward said, 3,000 warships, 1.5 billion soldiers. This is what tolerance has been hiding. This is what diplomacy has been restraining. For 3 years, you've been safe from us, not because we couldn't hurt you, but because we chose not to. Jenny's smile was terrible. That choice is now contingent on behavior. As they turned to leave, Vexthor found his voice. The Kryn will retaliate. They have thousands of ships. Jenny paused at the chamber's entrance. The Kryn had thousands of ships. The hologram shifted to show debris fields in Kryn space, the remains of 73 military installations, destroyed in a coordinated strike while the Council had been in session. Consider it a graduation present, Edward said. To remind you of the lesson every species learns eventually, It's easy to be civilized when you've never truly been threatened. But humanity? We were forged in fire long before we reached the stars. We just hoped we wouldn't need to remember how. The doors sealed behind them with a finality that echoed through the chamber. No species present could recall exactly when the shift had happened. The humans had been so patient, so eager to please, so desperate for acceptance. But looking back, the signs had been there all along, in the way they smiled while absorbing insults, in the precision of their careful diplomacy, in the hardness behind their eyes when they thought no one was watching. The Galactic Council had mistaken humanity's tolerance for weakness. It was a mistake they would never make again. And somewhere in the cold darkness of space, Jenny Martinez allowed herself one moment of grief for New Meridian before ordering the fleets to defensive positions. Humanity had tried peace. Now they would teach the galaxy what happened when their tolerance snapped.